She had never seen it before, not once, not ever. But she didn't doubt it had always been there, waiting for the right night, the right dreamer. With a calm heart and heavy eyelids, she stepped forward onto the path. The wind brushed past her one last time, as if to whisper welcome. And just like that, the trees closed behind her, gently folding the world away. The stars followed above, the grasses stilled, and the mountain, distant and glowing, waited patiently for her arrival. The forest greeted Leora like an old friend who had been quietly waiting. The air was cooler here, but not unfriendly. It was like the soft chill of night just before sleep, refreshing and soothing all at once. The glowing path before her wound gently between tall trees with silver-gray trunks and leaves that shimmered like silk in the moonlight. Everything was quiet, but not in a lonely way. It was the kind of quiet that felt sacred, like the hush of a lullaby before the final note. Each of Leora's steps fell soundlessly on the moss-covered ground. The earth was soft beneath her feet, like walking on a memory, and the moss glowed faintly beneath her as if the mountain itself wanted to light the way. The stars above filtered down through the tree branches, casting sleepy patterns on the forest floor, like shadows from a dream. She walked slowly, her breathing deep and easy. There was no hurry here. Time had loosened its grip, letting her move as gently as she pleased. All around her, the forest pulsed with a calm rhythm. Leaves fluttered with the breeze like the pages of a story being turned. Somewhere nearby, a small stream gurgled softly, a watery whisper humming a sleepy tune. Along the sides of the path, tiny flowers bloomed, soft blues, pale pinks, and gentle purple. They opened slowly as she passed, turning toward her not as if she were a stranger, but as if they remembered her from another life, another dream. One flower, a small bloom the color of moonlight, leaned close enough to brush against her fingertip. When she touched it, warmth spread up her arm, comforting and familiar. The path curved gently, and as it did, a soft, glowing fog began to drift among the trees. It wasn't thick or cold. It was light, like mist rising from a warm bath. It carried with it a smell like chamomile and old books, like sleep and stories. Leora inhaled deeply, and every muscle in her body seemed to melt a little more into calm. As she moved deeper into the forest, she noticed the fireflies had returned, but now they moved in perfect harmony, dancing slowly above the path, their lights pulsing with the same peaceful rhythm as her breath. They weaved in and out of the trees like glowing threads, forming lazy loops and spirals in the air. She watched them mesmerized, her eyes heavy but filled with wonder. The trees ahead began to shift in shape, not changing drastically, but softening. Their bark grew smoother, their branches arched overhead like a great leafy ceiling, and the light took on a dreamlike hue, as if dawn and dusk were happening at the same time. The forest no longer felt like the world she knew. It had become a place made for quiet hearts and sleepy souls. Soon the path led her to a clearing shaped like a crescent moon. At the center was a small pool of water, perfectly still, its surface smooth like glass. It reflected the stars above so clearly that for a moment, Leora wasn't sure whether she was looking up or down. She knelt beside the water, her shawl pooling gently around her, and stared into the reflection. Her face looked soft and far away, her eyes shining not with excitement but with peace. She dipped her fingers into the pool. The water was warm and silky, and as her hand moved through it, the reflection rippled into soft shapes, clouds, feathers, the image of a calm night sky. She didn't speak, didn't think, only breathed in the quiet and let the feeling of peace wash over her. As she rose and continued along the path, the trees began to grow thinner, the forest opening up like a curtain parting before a dream. The path was now lined with small lanterns, each one glowing a warm golden light inside. They seemed to glow from the inside out, lit by the soft power of stillness. She passed beneath an arch made of interwoven branches and moonflowers, and as she did, a soft breeze swept over her, wrapping her in a blanket of calm. She could feel the path rising now, ever so gently, as though the mountain was lifting her closer to the sky, step by dreamy step. There were no sounds of animals, no rustling of creatures, just the ever-present hush of serenity. It was as if everything here was resting, even the wind. The world wasn't asleep, but it was deeply, deeply relaxed. Finally, Leora came to a place where the trees fell away entirely, opening into a wide overlook. Below in the soft moonlight, she could see the winding path she'd walked and the sleeping village far beyond. now just a collection of soft, glowing dots. Above her, the stars shimmered like lanterns hung in the heavens. Everything was hushed. She sat at the edge of the overlook, pulling her shawl closer, the lanterns flickering gently beside her. The mountain loomed still ahead, tall, quiet, and welcoming. She let herself rest. She leaned back against a smooth stone, gazing up at the sky. The wind whispered again, this time a simple sigh, like the world itself was gently exhaling. Leora closed her eyes and the mountain waited. As morning never quite arrived and night never truly ended in the world of the magic mountain, Leora continued her gentle journey beneath an eternal twilight sky. A faint silvery light cradled the landscape, casting long drowsy shadows and softening every edge. She moved slowly now, not out of weariness, but because everything in this place encouraged a different rhythm, one not bound by time, but by calm. The path beneath her feet, still lined with whispering moss, began to slope down. With each step, the air grew warmer, thicker with the scent of lavender, warm milk, and distant rain. It was a sense so comforting, so strangely familiar, that Leora's shoulders loosened, her breath slowed, and a quiet sigh escaped her lips. Before her unfolded a wide, gentle valley. Its hills rolled softly like the folds of a giant blanket, and a delicate mist hovered over it all like a veil pulled gently across a sleeping face. At the base of the valley was a lake, still and glassy, its surface smoother than any mirror. Trees with silver leaves arched over its shores, their reflections perfect in the water's surface. And the air carried a hum. Not a sound exactly, but a sensation, like the low, soothing murmur of someone speaking gently beside you as you fall asleep. Leora descended slowly into the valley. With each step, she noticed something peculiar. Small pebbles and petals lined the path, each one softly glowing and etched with tiny words. As she passed, the breeze gently swept them away, sending them drifting into the mist until they vanished completely, as if the valley itself was saying, "You don't need these here." At the edge of the lake stood a large stone shaped like a resting animal, its back curved and warm, covered in soft moss. Leora ran her hand over its surface and sat down slowly. The stone welcomed her weight without protest, as though it had been waiting for her. Across the lake, soft shapes drifted by, memories perhaps, or dreams let go of long ago. Leora saw a paper boat floating silently across the surface, a single feather falling from the sky, and a pair of shoes slowly sinking into the water without a sound. Nothing was lost here. It all simply dissolved, relief, forgotten not in sorrow but in peace. She took a deep breath, and the valley breathed with her. Here her thoughts were quiet, her body light. She did not think of where she had been or where she was going. She only knew she was here, and that here was enough. A soft chime rang out, seemingly from nowhere, like the distant echo of a bell from long ago. It was followed by another, and then another, each slower and softer than the last, until the final note melted into the hush of the valley. It was a lullaby for the soul. A small bird, pale and downy, landed on the stone beside her. It looked up at her with kind, tired eyes, and then nestled into the moss beside her, falling asleep within moments. Leora smiled. Even the creatures of this valley knew how to rest. Looking into the lake, she saw a reflection. But it wasn't the her she expected. This version of herself had eyes closed, a face completely at ease, and a faint glow that pulsed in time with the valley's hum. It was not a mirror image. It was the version of her that carried no weight, no burden. The version of her that had never forgotten how to just be. She reached out to touch the surface of the lake, and as her fingertips skimmed the water, a ripple passed through it. Soft, slow, golden. The image faded gently like fog dispersing at dawn. And when it was gone, she didn't feel sadness, only relief. The valley had accepted it, accepted her. Time moved differently here. Minutes might have passed, or hours, or days. Leora could not tell, and it didn't matter. She simply rested, surrounded by the hush of the hills, the kindness of the breeze, and the warmth of the earth beneath her. When she finally stood to move on, she noticed something had changed. The path out of the valley was not lined with glowing pebbles anymore. It was clean and clear, as if the mountain had gently swept it for her. Her heart was lighter now, her mind quiet. She wasn't carrying anything behind her. No worries, no what-ifs, no should-haves. Just stillness. At the edge of the valley, a final breeze circled her once more. It whispered nothing. It didn't need to. Leora had heard what she needed to hear without a single word. She turned once to look back at the lake. its surface still and waiting for the next traveler to arrive. Then, with the hush of the valley lingering inside her, she stepped forward into the next part of the mountain's dream. Leora's steps were softer now, as if the earth itself was cushioning her feet with every stride. The path ahead curved gently and opened to a narrow gorge, where smooth stones formed natural steps descending into a hidden vale. A hush lingered in the air, like the quiet that follows a lullaby. The moment she entered, a soft mist curled around her ankles, delicate as silk, and the sound of flowing water called to her. Subtle, rhythmic, and endlessly soothing, the river of gentle dreams waited below. As she came closer, she saw it. A wide, slow-moving ribbon of water, its surface shimmering like melted moonlight. The river didn't rush, it didn't tumble or roar, it simply flowed with the calm and certainty of a dream that had nowhere else to be. On both sides of the riverbank, the grass was a deep silver green, bending ever so slightly as if in silent prayer. Pale blossoms floated on the surface, drifting along with the current as though carried by invisible lullabies. Leora knelt at the river's edge and touched the water. It was warmer than she expected, like a comforting bath drawn after a long day. When her fingers met it, a quiet pulse of energy moved through her hand, up her arm, and into her chest. Not jarring, but deeply gentle. It was the kind of feeling that made her want to close her eyes and breathe slowly, deeply, forever. A tiny wooden boat rested nearby, tied to a root that dipped into the river. It had no oars, no sails, but a soft pillow lay inside, and a single blanket folded neatly at the end. It seemed to beckon her, not with urgency, but with an unspoken promise. Come rest here, let the river carry you. Leora stepped in and settled down, the boat gently rocking beneath her. She leaned back onto the pillow and pulled the blanket over her legs. It was lighter than feathers, but warm like a loved one's embrace. The moment her head rested, the boat began to drift, not with effort, but as if the river had been waiting to carry her all along. She floated past dreamlike scenes, groves of trees with leaves shaped like stars where birds hummed lullabies from hidden nests. Mist swirled low over the water, swirling into sleepy patterns, spirals, circles, clouds, and slowly dissolved into the air. Here and there, glowing lily pads bobbed beside her, their lights pulsing like heartbeats. Some held soft candles, others tiny creatures made of light that blinked slowly as they napped. As she drifted deeper into the river's embrace, a hush fell over her thoughts. The river didn't just soothe the body, it reached into her mind, untangling thoughts she hadn't even realized she carried. Worries that had buried themselves in the corners of her memory loosened and floated away, dissolving into the water like salt in warm tea. She didn't even need to name them. The river knew, and it asked for nothing in return. Above her, the sky seemed closer now. It had deepened to a richer indigo, freckled with stars that twinkled softly like distant lullabies sung by galaxies far beyond. A breeze moved gently through her hair, and with it came soft whispers like pieces of dreams from those who had floated this way before. Breathe slow. You are safe now. Let go. And so her arms relaxed, her jaw loosened, and the last bits of tension left her chest with one long, peaceful sigh. The boat continued to glide, the water cradling her as if she were a child again, rocked by loving hands. She felt herself drifting between waking and dreaming, not quite asleep, not quite awake, just floating in a place where time paused to rest. She passed under a curtain of hanging blossoms, long trailing vines that swept across her blanket like soft brushes. The petals tickled her skin gently, carrying with them the scent of warm bread and soft rain. Everything in this place seemed designed not just to calm, but to remind her of the forgotten art of stillness. At one point, a silver fish leapt from the water beside her boat, arcing silently through the air like a whispered secret before disappearing with barely a ripple. She watched, not with surprise, but with the quiet wonder of someone who had stopped expecting and started accepting. The river eventually widened, opening into a small cove where willows stood guard, their branches kissing the surface like tired dancers bowing at the end of a lullaby. The boat began to slow, guided naturally to a shore cushioned in moss and lit by gentle lanterns that floated just above the ground, casting halos of golden light. Leora sat up slowly, not startled, not rushed. Her body moved like it was still dreaming. She stepped out of the boat, and the moss beneath her feet hummed softly, welcoming her return. She looked back at the river, which continued on, ready to cradle another traveler in its arms. She didn't need to say thank you. The river understood. Ahead, the path resumed, leading gently upward once more into the heart of the mountain. She took one last deep breath, and the peace she felt settled deep into her bones, like a melody she would carry with her always. With sleep still in her eyes and calm in her step, she began to climb again. Leora climbed slowly now, not because she was tired, but because the mountain seemed to want her to move at a gentler pace. The path ahead rose steadily, winding between soft hills that glowed faintly in the night's endless twilight. Above her, stars winked quietly and the air held a hushed reverence, like the world was holding its breath just for her. She reached a ridge and paused to look around. In the distance, the river glimmered faintly below, still winding its silver ribbons through the valley of dreams. But now a new landscape stretched before her, one that hummed with something deeper. It was not a place of water or mist or sky. It was a forest of pines so tall and ancient they seemed to reach into memory itself. The trees stood close together, their trunks straight and strong, their needles thick and silvery green. Their tips whispered together in the wind like soft voices speaking a language only the heart could understand. The moment Leora stepped between them, the world changed. The forest was wrapped in a gentle fog, not heavy but like a memory half remembered. Light filtered through the pine needles and beams that shimmered with the soft glow of old dreams. The ground was blanketed in thick moss and pine needles, muffling every step until even her own movement felt like part of the forest's silence. As she walked, she heard them, whispers. Not frightening, not strange, just soft, familiar sounds, like someone calling her name in a dream. Like laughter from long ago, like the way her mother used to hum when she thought no one was listening. She stopped beside a wide tree, its bark weathered and warm, and pressed her hand to its trunk. The moment she did, a memory stirred. It wasn't a clear picture, not like a photograph, but a feeling. A soft warmth, a time when she had sat on a swing beneath a tree just like this one, feeling the breeze on her face and the sun on her skin. She didn't remember the exact day, but her heart did. It beat a little slower, a little deeper. As she moved forward, the forest seemed to respond. More memories gently floated to the surface, not loud or overwhelming, but soft as feathers. She remembered sitting by a window during a storm, wrapped in a blanket, watching raindrops race down the glass. She remembered the smell of her grandfather's coat, heavy with cedar and thyme, and the way he used to lift her up as if she weighed nothing at all. She remembered her own laughter echoing in an empty room, and how good it had felt to be so light, so free. The trees held it all. Not just her memories, but the echo of every traveler who had come through before. They didn't judge, they didn't cling. They simply whispered them back when someone needed to remember who they were. She reached a clearing where the pine trees formed a circle, and in the center stood a single bench made of wood so old and smooth it gleamed. It looked like a place where someone might come to rest when they needed to remember something important, something gentle. Leora sat and closed her eyes. The whispers surrounded her now, clearer but still tender. Not words exactly, but sensations. She felt the weight of moments she had forgotten she carried, both sweet and sad. Joy and grief danced together here, and for once it didn't hurt. It felt full, whole. Like everything in her life had been allowed to exist without being fixed or hidden away. A soft wind moved through the trees, and they swayed together with a rhythm that felt like breathing. She listened deeper. In one whisper, she felt the memory of a bedtime story read to her long ago. In another, the quiet pride of a drawing she had made as a child and taped to the wall. In another, the way she used to look at the stars and make wishes she never told anyone. And still the forest held her gently, like a parent's hand in the dark. After what felt like a long healing moment, Leora stood. She didn't need to gather the memories or try to hold on to them. They were a part of her now, softened, warmed, understood. She felt lighter, not because anything had been taken away, but because she had been reminded of what was always hers to begin with. As she left the clearing, the trees whispered one last time, and this time she could almost make out the words. You were never truly lost, only wandering back to yourself. The path led upward again, but the climb no longer felt steep. Her steps were strong and her breath was easy. The forest faded slowly behind her, and the soft scent of pine lingered like a gentle goodbye. Ahead, something brighter glowed in the distance. A soft light, not harsh, not sudden, but like the promise of warmth at the end of a long journey. changing. Leora followed it, her heart calm, her mind quiet, and her spirit soothed by the whispering pines and all they had reminded her of. The forest slowly thinned behind her, and the whispers faded into a soft silence. Leora emerged from the shade of the pine trees and stepped onto open land where the light changed completely. It was golden now, gentle, diffused like sunlight in a dream. The sky above had softened to the color of creamy dusk, and in front of her stretched the meadow of inner stillness. It was vast yet not empty. The meadow rippled with tall velvety grasses that moved like the surface of a quiet sea. Dotted between them were thousands of wildflowers in delicate hues, lavender, pale blue, soft ivory, and dusty. They swayed gently in the breeze as if breathing in harmony with the world. Everything here was hushed, not from absence but from presence. It was the kind of quiet that only comes when everything has finally come home. Birds did not sing here, insects did not hum. Even the wind whispered less. The stillness was not silent, it was alive. Leora took a deep breath and it felt like her lungs were filling with peace itself. She placed one foot into the meadow and the grasses parted slightly to welcome her. With every step, something inside her slowed, calmed, melted. There was no need to hurry, no need to think or plan. The meadow asked for nothing. In the center of the meadow stood a small rise, a soft green hill that looked like it had been shaped by centuries of dream. Drawn to it, Leora walked through the grasses, the flowers brushing her hands and ankles with gentle affection. When she reached the top, she found a single tree, wide and low, with long branches that curved down like a grape. Beneath the tree was a simple woven mat of natural fibers, warm from the sun, and next to it, a small cup carved from stone. It was filled with something that smelled of chamomile and honey, a gift from the mountain, a gesture of kindness. Leora sat, took a sip, and let the warmth wash through her. It didn't just warm her body, it warmed her spirit, like the laughter of an old friend or the silence between two hearts that understand one another. She set the cup down and lay back on the mat. The grass rustled softly beneath her, and the tree above stretched out like a sheltering hand. From here she could see the whole sky. It was wider than she remembered, filled with slow-moving clouds that looked like dreams not yet born. She could feel the earth beneath her, not just as ground, but as a being that held her gently, the way a mother holds a child after a long, long journey. As she lay still, she realized something simple, something clear. She didn't have to become anything more than she already was. Here in this meadow, there was no pressure to be better, faster, stronger. There was only rest, only being. A small breeze moved through the grasses and she listened. It wasn't a voice, not exactly, but it carried a truth. You are enough just as you are. That single sentence landed in her chest like a stone sinking into a calm lake. It rippled through her, softening old tensions, dissolving fears she hadn't even named. All her striving, all her questions, all her searching, none of it was wrong, but none of it was necessary now. She closed her eyes and her body became as still as the meadow itself. Her heartbeat slowed. Her mind, so often buzzing with noise, now floated quietly like a feather on water. And in that stillness, she felt something remarkable. She felt herself, not the version of herself shaped by expectations, by memories, by worries or hopes, but the self that had always been there. The self that watched and waited with love. The self that had never left. She was not broken. She was not behind. She was simply here. Minutes passed, or hours, or maybe longer. Time in the meadow did not move in the way it did elsewhere. It softened. It curled in on itself like a cat in a sunbeam. When she finally opened her eyes, the sky had deepened into a warm twilight. Stars blinked into view, not one by one, but together, like a field of lanterns lit all at once. The tree above her rustled softly as if sighing in content. The flowers around her glowed faintly, their petals folding in for the night. Leora sat up and smiled, not because something had changed, but because she had changed by doing nothing at all, by resting, by remembering, by being. The path continued from the other side of the hill, where a gentle archway of flowers marked the way. Beyond it, she sensed the final stretch of her journey waiting. But for now, she stood slowly, brushing soft petals from her skirt and turned one last time to take in the meadow. The grasses, the tree, the sky, they would stay with her, always etched in the quiet place she now carried inside. She stepped forward, lighter than ever, guided by stillness itself. Leora stepped beyond the meadow, and the path narrowed once more. It wound gently upward through soft hills and clusters of moonflowers that opened wide in the twilight, glowing like little lanterns lighting the way. Each step felt effortless now, like she was being carried by something unseen but deeply familiar. The sky overhead darkened, but it wasn't heavy or cold. It shimmered with stars so close they looked like they had come down from the heavens just to guide her. The mountain had grown quiet, not in absence, but in anticipation. She was near the top now. Ahead, the path curved around a great boulder, and as she rounded it, she gasped. The summit opened before her like a dream finally remembered. It wasn't high and jagged like she had imagined. It was soft, wide, and no. A field of starlight grass stretched across the mountaintop, and in the very center stood a crystal pool, smooth as glass, glowing from within with a golden light. It didn't reflect the stars, it held them. Surrounding the pool were 7 luminous stones, each pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Leora stepped closer, drawn to them not by curiosity but by a feeling of belonging. She sat on the soft earth beside the pool and looked in, and what she saw took her breath away. The surface showed not her face, but her soul. Not in images, but in feelings and color and waves of memory, love and light. It showed her all the pieces she had gathered on the journey. The mist of dreams, the river of surrender, the sky of perspective, the pines of memory, the meadow of stillness. It showed how each part was a gift, each chapter a return, not a departure. And at the center of it all was light. Her light. The mountain hadn't changed her. It had revealed her. She smiled and tears filled her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were soft and warm like rain after a long drought, like coming home. As she sat there bathed in the gentle glow of the summit, a breeze moved through the starlit grass. It circled her gently like an embrace and carried with it a voice, not loud, not from outside, but from within. You have arrived, not at the top, but within yourself. Leora closed her eyes and let those words settle into her bones. She felt the warmth of the earth beneath her, the sky above, and the stars around her. All one, all part of the same great stillness. She didn't need to go back down just yet. She didn't need to go anywhere. Here in this sacred place above the world, she could simply be whole, home. The stones around the pool glowed brighter now, humming softly in harmony. And in their light, she felt the presence of everyone who had ever climbed this mountain. Their peace was now part of hers. Their journeys had all led to this same place, not to escape life, but to return to it with grace. Leora lay back in the grass, the stars twinkling above her like a lullaby written just for her. The summit cradled her in quiet and her body melted into the earth's gentle rhythm. The wind whispered goodnight in her ear. The grass sang her a lullaby. The stars wrapped her in a blanket of shimmering dreams. She had made it, not because she had conquered the mountain, but because she had softened into herself, let go, trusted, listened, and loved. As her eyes grew heavy, the mountain faded into a soft dream behind her lid. The light within her still glowed steady and kind, like a lantern she would carry wherever she went. She would return to the world below, but not tonight. Tonight was for rest. Tonight was for peace. Tonight was for knowing deep down that she was exactly where she was meant to be. And so beneath the sky of velvet stars on the highest quiet of the mountain, Leora drifted into the gentlest sleep, her breath slow, her heart light, and her soul wrapped in golden stillness. Good night, dear dreamer. May your own mountain carry you gently to peace. Sleep well. You are safe. You are home.